Excellent. Good. Hi everyone, and well done for making it to 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the first day. I'm sure you've had a lot of talks and a lot of information thrown at you. And thank you for joining me today in my talk on translating AI terms into business value. I'm Steve Roberts. I'm the Strategy and Delivery Director at Billigence. We're a data consultancy that focuses on bringing meaning and value to people's data. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today. We are fantastic in this industry at creating new terms or reusing terms and bringing new meaning, new focus on them. But we often lose that link to business value. I'm sure there's been lots of talks today about all the exciting things that Gen AI is going to bring to the world, but we lose that focus on how you get from there to your business value. I've been reading a lot of blog posts recently from various on LinkedIn or various different publications in the market. Some of the stats that are coming through are quite interesting in the fact that I think it's around 50 to 60% of C-level execs don't trust the outputs from AI models. At the same time, in different studies, they're saying that about 100% of execs, or close as possible to 100% of execs, feel they are behind the curve on integrating with AI. They've kind of two different competing metrics there. And that's really been driven by that fear of missing out on the business value that this can bring. But at the same time, that rush is creating a lot of confusion in the market and kind of almost getting in the way of driving towards that business value. Like I said, we've been absolutely fantastic at creating terms in the market. Like when I was very early on in my career, there were terms like data mining and statistical inference, all in across the job descriptions that you'd be seeing. And those terms just kept coming, so data wrangling, just making sense of the data, and all that surfaced up into just basic management intelligence. But then we got onto things like a data warehouse, got onto data lake, data model, and that was leading to the evolution into BI. And at that point, we were still delivering value, but at the same time, there was the same hype cycle and the same kind of drive to get on the bandwagon, to get on the confusion, and get on the bandwagon. And these terms just kept coming and kept coming, and they're coming at us now faster than ever. And if we don't get hold of this narrative, if we don't drive what these mean within our companies, within our businesses, then everyone creates their own term. And at the heart of it, well, as you can see there, the latest term is Gen AI, and everyone wants to be deploying various Gen AI models, and the purpose, and we have lost that link, and the purpose of it should be that we need to drive business value. At the heart of this, it's all very much the same approach across all these terms throughout the various decades that they've been evolving. It is all about identification of kind of what is the total addressable value that I can get to, but then how do I achieve that value? What is the achievable value? And that can be different by different tools. You've then obviously you've got to pick the right tool to get you as far along that journey as possible. You've got to understand, do I need to deploy a machine learning algorithm to get me there, or actually would simple kind of data wrangling so everyone has the data actually get me a significant proportion of that value? And then obviously it's deliver, scale, and then evolve that solution so that you can go down that path. And you should use, as I say, you should use these terms as signposts to the value within your business. Organizations out there are acting in confusion around a lot of these terms. They don't know how to move along that journey, where they are at the moment, where they are on the maturity curve to use the right tool for the right problem actually to drive that business value. It's all at the heart the same thing. And each term that you saw on the previous slide, that should represent a chunk of value, or delivering to that should represent a chunk of value. It should be tangible to your business in order to actually move along that path. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was working with a company and we were building out a simulation engine, and we had lots of choices of different directions to go. We could have gone wide, taken into account lots of use cases, or we could have. There was a lot of it was the early terms. It was the early days of the terms around machine learning and classification models, neural networks, and the questions were coming in left, right, and centre. We should be using a neural network for this, and how to apply that actually didn't make any sense in what we were actually doing. And by creating that, we created that roadmap, we created those signposts for the business about how we linked the evolution of this at core analytical problem to specific terms in the market, and we're able to drive along that roadmap. We actually chose to cover more use cases in a simpler fashion than go deep and, as I said, applying neural networks to a problem which really didn't require it. So these terms that we're coming up with in the marketplace, they shouldn't be used in and of themselves. And we get the statement, we need to be using AI, but what does that mean? How do we use it? How do we actually apply value from that? And how do we signpost how to get there in the right way? And there is variation in those terms. I've been a bit extreme there, I've been a bit provocative there with this can mean what you want it to mean, but these are broadly defined in the marketplace. It's not a very specific definition, but if we don't get hold of them in our organizations, if we don't own these and actually define them for what they mean for our organization, it creates a lot of ambiguity. A few months ago, I was on a company site in a senior exec workshop. The very expensive meeting, from what I could see, it was probably talking about the thousands of pounds an hour around driving towards a specific outcome that they wanted to drive. And I'm not kidding you. We spent a significant proportion of that workshop talking about what is a data product. You had different elements of the different functions represented in the business, and this wasn't even a full cross-section of that organization. And it was over a good hour that there was a debate going on of and it came up frequently throughout the day of what do you mean by a data product? And that's what I mean about getting hold of these terms. And that is really, again, a few ambiguous terms here, but that's the data office's responsibility, it's the center of excellence, it's the data team's responsibility to define these for the organization so that everyone can be aligned and consistent across that. And I'll take a few of these terms. Mainly, I chose these because of a recent conference experience that I had a few months ago again, where I was talking to a software vendor early in the day, and then I was catching up with a former colleague later on down the line just to make sure my interpretation was the same as theirs. And they were talking about they did Gen AI, as everyone is talking about how they do Gen AI. But we both had scratched the surface independently with them, and we'd uncovered that whilst they were saying they did Gen AI, actually their model beneath the scenes was linear regression at its heart. And this is where people are starting to use these terms interchangeably in the market, or they've been using them for a long time interchangeably in the market. And this is where I'm saying we need, in order to drive that true business value, we need to get hold of these and say what they mean for our organizations so that we can drive people along that consistent path to value. So for machine learning, for example, that's a broad catch-all term. And historically, well, at heart, it is about your linear regression. It's about your classification models. That's where you'd put a neural network. But in general, going back to when it was first emerging on the market, it would be you're building up a model with your highly expensive, highly skilled resources that you'd periodically refresh, you'd periodically develop further functionality of. And then that led to MLOps, and in essence, similar principles to DevOps. That was all about releasing data fast, releasing enhancements to that model faster. It should have freed up your resources to do more and more across the market, across your business, to take into account new use cases. Now, there's an inherent danger there that if you go too far that way, you go down a rabbit hole. So you start just developing out functionality and further enhancements to the model, and it just starts to give you those diminishing returns. So there is a trick there to actually make sure that you're still delivering that business value with what you're doing and you're going on to the right use case. AI, again, this is used frequently interchangeably with machine learning, and people get very confused in the market. But in essence, again, it's about that acceleration. It is, at heart, its definition is machines mimicking human behavior, but effectively, this is its self-learning. This is its building up its own knowledge base, and that's what the the models that are out in the market actually do. They learn off the inputs that they've got. And again, it's a progression on. It's another signpost on that journey of models to use, where it's just learning faster and it's freeing up that time. However, you can't really take the human out of the loop with it still. You still need to have that sense check. I think the stat at the moment is something like 40% of the output from AI models is a hallucination. So you need to have those guardrails, and you need to have that simple BI over the top of it to say, okay, is it operating within the bounds that we expect? Is it operating within what we want it to do? And then I've left Gen AI at the end there, and like I said, experience at the conference earlier, claiming to do Gen AI, whereas actually it was a much simpler approach. This is a very specific terminology within the AI space. It doesn't cover all of AI, although a lot of companies, when the statement is made, we need to do AI, they jump straight to a Gen AI, whereas that might not be the best use case for it. But it is effectively around generating text, it's around generating voice, it's a machine that can mimic that generation within a company. But what is key is making sure that you're clear with in a data team, you're clear with your business around what those terms mean. And in a business functions, it's if you don't understand what the data teams are talking about or what the initiatives are really using, pushing them, challenging them to be clear about what they're trying to do. And clear, like I've been saying, clear alignment along that can deliver that business value along your data strategy. Getting alignment drives that consistency. It drives that simplification and supportability of what you are building. It means that everything as simple as onboarding new starters, they can get up to speed faster. So you're doing more, cheaper, more consistent, and more aligned across your business. And that is really how you need to be driving towards your data strategy and driving towards the business value within your data strategy. And this is where I come to this diagram. Now, this isn't a catch-all for everything that was there, but it's showing what I was talking about earlier. You have for your use cases, you have a total achievable value or total achievable opportunity. And each of those terms along that map should be delivering or should have the opportunity to deliver a certain amount of value. Now, you might not need to start at the very early stages of just automating your data collection. You might not need to be that simple. You might have an opportunity, and I'll come on to an example in a minute, where you can jump to using an AI model to actually give you business value. But at the same time, the biggest achievable value that you might get might be as simple as taking the 1 million spreadsheets that you've got across your business and automating what they do so that you have that one view. Not necessarily even on a data platform, but you're getting that one view within your business. And then you can evolve, but it's all about looking at your maturity as an organization from a data point of view and a capability point of view, looking at the use case to see what is truly suitable, and then looking at where that value can be delivered. So to give you an example, if I was looking at in a retail environment, we're looking at end-to-end profitability at a product level, and that was a simple case of taking the inputs from different systems and then breaking that down and surfacing it up to the business in simple terms. There is not a single point along that initial value chain where I'd need to apply a Gen AI model. So to give you some other examples of this, a few companies that I've worked with over the years. Board level statement from this one, very recognizable, I'm sure, to everyone here. Costs are too high. Let's see what we can do with AI to bring them down. High level, short review of the art of the possible. I might have been a bit extreme with there. Data maturity was not in place to deliver meaningful change with an AI model in this company. It would have it wouldn't have delivered value for the effort that was required to put it in place. And actually, when we looked at simple root cause analysis, when we looked at simply looking at where the costs are and what can be achieved, it was effectively an MI solution out to operations managers across the company to say, you need to focus on these areas. These are the areas of wastage. And actually, the return on that was about €500,000 for the business. It didn't need that full opportunity, full all singing, all dancing model to do it. But back to what I was talking about, you can go in at different points. So similar board, this is a medium-sized company broadly facing the same challenges, but they were at a higher level of data maturity in this organization. They had the good fundamentals in place where they could actually start a lot further down the channel, and they could actually get closer to that machine learning model, closer to the AI, but actually simple machine learning models could be put in place. Slightly bigger company in this case, and actually it parallels a bit, but this one delivered about 5 million euros worth of value within about 3 months of implementation. It was still a decision support tool that was put in place. Still a human had to be in the loop, but the intelligence it was given was cleverer. But again, you didn't have to start right at the beginning. You didn't have to jump all the way to the end. You had to look at what these terms meant within the business and where that and what the maturity was of the business and where that value could really be delivered. And like I said, this gave significant enhancements despite not actually having to be as advanced as a Gen AI model. But that's not to say it isn't possible. And my final example is again a small company, data not entirely clean, but actually when we looked at the problem statement of how they wanted to tackle, or what challenge they wanted to tackle, it didn't need to be clean and with a process that could be put in place. It didn't need to be, you had to understand the you could take a view of the output and actually have the human in the loop to make sense of what the Gen AI model was talking about. And this was where we were actually able to use it. We were able to put something very simple in place. We didn't have to. We basically used the OpenAI, sent non-proprietary data out to it, scanned the web. It didn't have to. It was perfectly safe. We didn't have to worry about trusting the output because it was simply going out, taking a simple input from the business, going out and finding facts on the web, based on some of its intelligence of matching it up and then surfacing it up in an intelligent way. It was a really simple solution. It was able to find out average selling price information for different competitors of this company across the web. After, obviously, it had gone out, used the Gen AI models, it was then able to compare back to internal data. So again, you weren't sending any proprietary data out. And it was able to produce a recommendation output. So again, it had value to the company. It was a really quick, really easy use case, and actually this was the fastest way to deliver it. It was the most effective way to deliver the most value. And that's really what I'm trying to get across with the talk today, is look at the business value and what you can address with each of these tools, and from a data point of view, signpost that with the business about how you can achieve it. And then from a business point of view, don't try and use a tool for the sake of using a tool. Make sure you understand what that means for the organization and which tool to pick. I do also want to touch on this one because they do go hand in hand with that journey. So data governance versus AI governance. And data governance has turned into the slightly unsexy term, if it ever was a sexy term, and it's been replaced by AI governance. But both of these are, again, terms that go alongside this in order to enable the business towards that value. Data governance is all about being able to find the right data, trust that you should be accessing that data, and then know how to use it, know what the definition is and where it comes from. Now, if I replace data with AI model there in that statement, it means exactly the same. So AI governance is about trusting the models you've got, trusting how they're used, how they're constructed, and you should be using the right ones for the right use case. And these go hand in hand and get the foundations in place alongside that business value in order to sustain and scale it. But again, it's another example within the industry of where we need to get hold of these terms as an organization and define them for what they mean for us and how they are applied so that everyone understands them across the organization. So you don't get into those long debates with senior executives, which is wasting thousands of pounds an hour in a meeting about what does this term really mean to me? So like I said, key thing I've learnt through this is take charge of that narrative, take charge of that agenda, state what it means for your company. Make sure that you're clear with your business from a data team point of view, and you'll then challenge your data team if their terms aren't clear and make it their accountability to control that, to have that narrative of what that journey looks like for you, and then how you should be applying that to your use case, to your different value case, so that you can achieve value quicker as a business and use the right toolkit. I have got a slide for questions, but I didn't realise that we'd be on the mic today, so if you do have any questions, I'll be over on stand Y239 if you want to come across and ask me something. I'll be there and happy to field further questions. Cool.